I'd like to call the meeting of the Public Schools of Robeson County to order, our January meeting. Mr. Randy's on here, Mr. Randy, for the invocation, and before you give the invocation, let me make a couple of comments. We have several employees who are currently in the hospital, COVID-related, and we've lost two employees, Miss Murray McCutcheon, who was a bookkeeper at Red Springs High School. She was hired in 1986. And also Mr. James Roy Phillips, HVAC in the maintenance department. He was hired in 2013. And Mr. Randy, before you go to prayer, we'd like to ask a moment of silence for those.
Let's take that moment of silence. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for your mercy, grace, and love, dear God. Dear Heavenly Father, as we go day to day, dear Heavenly Father, protect us, put your hedge of protection around us, dear God. Dear Heavenly Father, and as our employees and students out in the communities, dear Heavenly Father, just touch them, put that hedge of protection around them. Dear Heavenly Father, the ones that we've lost with the Public Schools of Robeson County, we lift their families up to you, dear Heavenly Father. Just comfort them as only you can, dear Heavenly Father. Dear Heavenly Father, in our meeting tonight, lead, guide, and direct us, dear Heavenly Father, as we come to you, dear Heavenly Father. We ask this in Jesus Christ's holy name. Amen.
Amen. And the information I have that Mr. Phillips' arrangements are this Thursday, January the 14th. There is a visitation from 6 to 7 at West Lumberton Baptist Church, and the funeral will be at 7 p.m. Thursday evening. On the adoption of the agenda, I know we want to take off the Lowe's recognition, like to remove that from here. I don't see a representative from Quickie. You're here. Okay, thank you. Okay, so just taking off the Lowe's recognition would take that off. I have a motion to accept the agenda.
I so move.
Second.
Motion is made by Mr. Gentry, second by Mr. Henry Brewer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Randy, second by Mr. Gentry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, information items. First will be Quickie Manufacturing Recognition. You folks will come on up here to the podium. I was not sure who was coming, so introduce yourself.
I'm Jimmy Lynn Lewis. I'm the Senior Generalist of HR at Quickie.
I'm Howard Rainey. I'm the Operations and Engineering Manager.
Thank you all for being here. This is on behalf of the Public Schools of Robeson County, presented to Quickie Manufacturing Corporation for your continued support and commitment to the Public Schools of Robeson County, January 12, 2021. It's my understanding, you distributed cleaning supplies to our schools, is that correct?
Yes.
How many schools?
We touched every one of them.
That's right, say it loud, say that loud. How many schools?
Every one of them. I reached out to the last two, the very last day, and we were able to get every one of them, including Shining Stars.
Did that also include every classroom in every school?
As we had them to give us the numbers, and we made sure that we had enough for every classroom. They might not have got one of each product, but we made sure every classroom had some type of.
Well, that's fantastic. And as a board, I'd like to, on behalf of the board, thank you very much.
All the classrooms.
Greg. Superintendent Greg. Get you with a superintendent.
Take one with the superintendent.
Yes, superintendent.
Yes.
Come over here, folks. Thank you all.
And this is an example of how critical partnerships are to this work, and we certainly appreciate it.
Glad you were able to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, we do thank Quickie Manufacturing for that contribution. And I don't know if you noticed, there was times on Facebook, a lot of the schools they were going around to, they were putting pictures out, teachers getting cleaning supplies for their classroom, which was a great thing. Okay, curriculum highlights. Dr. Robert Locklear.
Let me say Happy New Year to all of you, those I haven't seen this year. Hope you had a great holiday and 2021 is off to a already. But tonight we want to recognize our science department and talk with the superintendent, and thought we should do a couple grants that we have received. In your board packet, you should have received a summary of the two grants. And tonight we have a short presentation. But the first one deals with the plasma games grant awarded on behalf of the North Carolina Department of Commerce out of the Office of the Science, Technology, and Innovation. This grant is valued at $156,000. And as authorized by the North Carolina Session Law, it was a grant totaling $2.5 million. So we're very pleased that we were able to receive some of the funds that will help us to promote access to innovative digital and personalized learning solutions for middle and high school science students that will bridge the gap between chemistry and physical science. I have just a short video I just want to share with you on what plasma games are all about.
The U.S. educational system's biggest and most important problem area is chemistry. It is our largest human capital shortage, which hinders economic growth. It's the class where teachers are the least equipped, and it is the least liked by students. After interviewing hundreds of chemistry teachers, student engagement is above and beyond teachers' number one problem. How can we expect them to compete with things like Fortnite, Snapchat, and YouTube with just a dry erase marker and a textbook? Plasma Games won a National Science Foundation Small Business Innovation Research Award to build a first-of-its-kind game-based learning platform to solve this problem. In our educational game, players save our planet from a mysterious alien race that is stripping our energy resources and poisoning the environment. Traditionally, people learn all kinds of things from video games, but they are either fictitious or not helpful. In contrast, our game takes engaging gameplay mechanics and makes them all real science. 3 core features of our educational game that boost engagement and learning. First, it fuses learning standards with a blockbuster game. Second, it connects the standards to real-world technologies and applications. And third, it incorporates inspiring STEM majors and careers. Players calibrate lasers by adjusting how far the electron falls down in the Bohr model of the atom. As a result, players learn about atomic structure, electromagnetic waves, and different types of energy. Fusing game mechanics with learning standards has resulted in off-the-charts student engagement and unprecedented learning gains. Another reason people love video games is equipping their characters. We've made this all real science as well. For example, players purchase elements from the periodic table to learn periodic trends and metallic characteristics as they unlock new gear. All of the equipment in our game teaches learning standards through real-world technologies, providing context and meaning. For example, players equip jump boots to move faster in the game. In the process, they learn about the ideal gas laws in the context of real compressor designs. Lastly, when players save scientists and engineers from the aliens, they unlock character profiles filled with inspiring information about STEM majors, careers, salaries, and more. This helps players tie what they learn about chemistry to something critical in their own lives, a career. Parents, teachers, administrators, and even government officials recognize the tremendous potential Plasma Games has and have provided their support. Thank you for watching. Please visit our website to learn more. And remember, to follow and like us on social media at Play Plasma Games.
So our students. So thanks to Ms. Susan Hendricks, our students will have access to these activities in the very near future. Hopefully, we got the invoice, I think, today, so hopefully in the next week or so. But I was thinking, Dr. Mannion, if I'd had this when I was taking chemistry under Daniel McKenzie at South Robinson, Fonte, that would have probably really helped me out a little bit.
Dr. Manuel?
Maybe this will entice more students to
Yes.
take chemistry. Right now, it's an option for track, but it would be, when they get in and they can see they can actually put their hands on these experiments and, the elements and all, maybe it would turn them on again. But, because chemistry is a foundational course, but not many students realize that.
Just being able to, it's like the kids are playing a video game and they don't realize they're learning, but that's what they're doing. So we're very pleased to have this funding.
Good job.
Okay. So of course, the teachers will receive professional development to help them to understand the program better. Because we want to make sure that if we do receive grant money, that we're using it to the fullest extent to make sure our students receive the successes, especially with our STEM career. And then the second grant deals with our first grant.
Excuse me just 1 minute. What grade level did you say? I missed that. I must have been asleep.
It's going to be high school.
High school.
And then the first grant is a total of $29,928. And if you remember, a couple of years ago, we started receiving funds from the first grant of North Carolina. And this year it's going to be funded through Disney. So Ms. Susan was able to receive those funds also. And we already have our second grade students are very involved with the robotics. So these funds will help with our pre-K kindergarten. Second grade, we're going to have 150 high school students. Those students are not being selected yet. We're still working with Ms. Susan to get that list together for us. But I gave you a copy of a robot book, because if you've heard our teachers talk about the robotics, especially at early college, and on the last slide here, I'll show you in just a minute. But our students have competed all over the United States. The last time I think they were in Nevada, they have done exceptionally well. Some of you actually donated funds to help support this trip. I want you to continue to support our robotics club because they do a phenomenal job. And I just can't thank Dr. Clark and his team over at Early College for what they do every single day. So, and here I have some pictures. Because our students, they learn real world problems. I know this is not a very good picture, but when you do get a chance to go in the classrooms and the kids are back, this is what we do every day. It's not just a book and a paper. It's where the kids are actually designing and using their critical and analytical skills, because these students actually competed and ended up, I think, this February in the top 10 in the United States, right here in Robeson County. And we want them to be #1. And the only way we can do that is just keep encouraging them, because like I said, they do a phenomenal job. Of course, our team is Rob Code Box 6029. So I said I wanted to share this with you because we have Read Across America coming up on March 2nd. And if you want to read a book about robots, I gave you an advance copy. So any questions or comments?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Robert.
Thank you.
Williamson, we would like to welcome you, and I guess we're gonna put you to work real quick. Reentry plan update.
Chairman and members, thank you. It's an honor to be in front of you tonight. Very briefly, do want to update you on the reentry plan. Start with, we did receive from United Way as part of their American Mass Challenge, $144,400. And then those are in the warehouse. Great, so we certainly appreciate that. The second item is we're planning for our buildings to be disinfected every other day. That's been a concern. So we're going to share in a minute how we're going to accomplish that. But we will continue to practice disinfecting during the workday. Our staffs are in the building. We have ordered one sanitizing backpack sprayer for each custodian at the school building and a small pressure washer per school for cleaning bathroom. The target date for these items to be in place and training to take place February 1. Let me ask Mr. Hammonds if you'll come and walk us through what we have ordered.
Thank you, Dr. Williamson. I'd like to recognize the board chair and members of the board and thank you for our new superintendent, Dr. Williamson. He has already got us off and on the right road to return our schools. He's laid out our plan. I've been listening to his leadership styles and so that we can adapt them into our system so that we can work with him to accomplish the goals that he set for us. One of the things I've noticed is we have the logo based on his approach to the problem. We have 3 points on the triangle, and that's basically what I've come up with, what he has been sharing with. The first part of it, which is actually this book and his whole team and his administration has been very heartily upon, is the first portion of it, which is prevention. The meeting that we had with Dr. Williamson at our maintenance department. The first thing, which is simply all team members practicing the preventative measures. So that's very important. That's the top of your triangle. Prevention is the very first part of our shield. And think about the triangle now, like so inside the wheel, think about the triangle spin. In order to create a shield or a barrier, all these things that we're going to share with you tonight have to stay in constant motion. And one of the big things that I've picked up from Dr. Williamson is he always wants to see what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and how we can continue to keep this process in place. Because as you and all of our counties well aware, we've got to maintain a shield and keep it consistent once we come back. And he uses the word alignment. I like that word because what it simply means, we all work together in unison in one accord. It has to be multiplied throughout the whole entire county. So that's step one of his the plan that he shared with us. And we've adapted our system into this. And which is simply the 3 W's, the guidelines, the procedure, information for all of this. And then the second part is the building portion, which he wants us to elaborate on. And if you look, you have some materials that will show you that. So just as you have a prevention from the student, staff, workers, parents, from one standpoint, there's also a building preventative measure that we have to keep in place at the same time. And of course, that starts with the superintendent through his administration and then the school, which we call SAP. And that is that's multifaceted. In essence, he's constantly connected with the whole entire administration in the schools. We are a portion of that, which represents the building portion. So out of our building preventative measures, we've come up with the 3 machines. 2 of them, we'd like to thank Dr. Williamson for pointing out to us because we were headed in a direction, but he peaked some of the things that we were doing, and that's helped us be actually more efficient because we saw the vision from the administrative point of view as opposed to custodians. You know, we're always goal-oriented to get the job done, what we see, but the administrators are always looking at the whole big picture. So that was where he was able to critique that, and that was where the backpacks come in. So if you look at the building preventative maintenance, the first thing on your pass-out sheet is called the CIVAC machine. And that is the one that actually they just came there. And we got, let's see, total 46 in. We'll go to the school. We have 3 and the 225 cases of 6 gallons in each case. That was delivered today. And the chemical that's used in the CIVAC machine, 1250, is called Kaboom. And there's a kill time ratio on that chemical for about 6 minutes. That particular piece of equipment will be utilized in all the bathrooms throughout the county at the schools. And the purpose of that is there's no contact with the
fixtures and all. It's a machine where you can go in and spray everything with the exception of your ceilings, your walls, your fixtures and everything. Then you come back with the same machine and you clean it up. It has a suction, system. Basically, that machine will cut down time frame, which is of the essence based upon his view of what we're doing in order to keep this shield in place. So just think about that triangle as the second part of the triangle, that tip, is the building function. What part is the human part, which we have to keep into motion. Now, the other portion that he has pointed out to us, help us tremendously, is the backpack. And if you'll just go over to page, look in the right-hand bottom corner, it says 16, that's where the backpack comes in. You'll see a picture of it. And the picture company makes this backpack. What it is electrostatic sprayer. And what it does, misplaced the backpack, it can hold the amount of tons of chemical. And in the case, one of the issues we were concerned about was the amount of the weight factor. Then, as Dr. Gibson pointed out to us, you don't have to fill it all the way up. And a good portion of this is, this chemical is a mister type backpack. In other words, it's battery powered and it puts it in the form of a mist. So that means your product is going to go a very long way. And if you'll notice, and they're giving you coverage on the square foot, of how multiplied by what he's told us, each custodian in the county will get one backpack. So that's important. So you can multiply that effect. And when we get to the third part of our plan, our nurse, you'll see that that is very critical in what they're doing. So the PM side is, as we practice from the human standpoint, the custodian and building teams will be building a perimeter around that from a cleaning schedule, daily schedule, every other day, however the system is set up, and they will constantly keep that in motion. But the key here, go back and we'll piggyback from the very first concept, we have to keep that in practice. It has to be routine and it has to be done without getting complacent. It has to constantly be in motion in order to keep it. All right, after the backpack, and that backpack, it uses the herbicide Quat 2 chemical. And the kill time on that particular chemical is 10 minutes. And Mr. Mercer, I spoke with him. We already have about 8,000 quarts of this chemical in stock. And the backpack to go to the handheld, that's what we currently have. Each custodian in the county, at least one per school, has the handheld. They really like this. Most of them have shown how that this is really helping us tremendously as far as their job, making it a lot more efficient. And those are the pluses of this machine. So both the backpack and the handheld use the same type of chemical, which means that that's a good investment in the direction. Now, once the backpacks come in, and they should be in within the next week based on what the vendors told us, Dr. Williamson. So as we said, the kayak was today, and hopefully we get those 173. There's about 170. Now, out of that 173 backpacks, 43 are between the bus coordinators and the athletic directors. So if you'll notice, in each incident, we tried to cover all the bases. For example, like the sporting areas, they have their own, the coaches, they have their own, so they can maintain their environment. And same thing is true with the AD, with the buses. And then Dr. Guzman has, he and I spoke on that, and he'll be making sure that those things are in place as well. But that's the backpack and the handheld, which we currently have one in each school. One school has two. Now, the final piece of the plan, which you go to the left-hand side of the triangle, which is the final point. So the 3 points of the triangle is first, prevention from the human aspect, practicing the guidelines, the rules, and the regulations. And number 2 is the building preventative structure, which will be employed by the custodians along with our work with them. And number 3 is if you have a COVID outbreak. So we call that COP, C-O-P. And what that means, COVID outbreak procedures. So that means once the COVID, we get a literal case, we go to a plan that we've developed. That has been working, it's actually working daily. Today, we were carrying this machine out at the various schools. First thing to note, all the custodians in the county have been trained by the factory on the Clorox 360 machine. Now that machine, if you want to see here, is at the very back of your handout. And I think if you back up a page of the chemical that it's utilized. It's called the Clorox. It's chemical. We call that the machine that when we have an outbreak. So let's say Nurse Stephanie, we call the one who puts it in motion. She works with the local health department. And once there's an actual COVID case that we know of, she pushes the button, it comes to our warehouse. The warehouse manager, along with the OSHA representative, Mr. Tim Bass, they work together. All these individuals, they've been trained off the machines themselves. And all of that is for a backup. So if we ever need them to go through with it, it follows through. But one issues the machine, the work order is generated. From that, once the work order is generated, then documentation process begins. Mr. Tim Bass, he will automatically follow through with all of the documentation. There's a line that follows that, as well as where the machine's in motion. Our custodial supervisor, Mr. Mark Oliver, he automatically gets the machine. He has team members who works with him. The machine is actually delivered to the school site. The custodians at the school, they then take charge of the machine. They go in and spray the appropriate areas. As they spray, they have to make a map. We provide them with maps. That map is documented, and all the information where they sprayed at and time and date is signed off of signature wise. And we don't want the machine back without that documentation. So that's a part of the machine having to come back to us. And once it gets back to us, Mr. Oliver gets the machine back to the appropriate place. Mr. Tim Bass takes the documentation, and we're constantly maintaining the documentation at all times. So it goes to the school, the map is provided, signing documentation, the area is treated, and it's a continuous cycle. Now, if we go to a school and the custodians are down, let's say they've been infected, over to the right-hand side of our little chart, what happens? The custodial supervisor will build his team, and that's from our maintenance department. They will go in and do the same thing that the custodians should have done at their school, but it couldn't do with COVID. And the same process reverts back and it goes back up to that particular warehouse. Now, we have 7 of those machines, and those machines work well. And like we said, the reason we bring that in, I know that y'all are looking at 2, and I think Nurse Stephanie and I discussed it today. We're actually capable of, if when we hear one COVID case, we can take that machine and go and keep it in the book. And that's our goal. Our goal is not to wait for 2. The first case we hear, we can go provide a shield, take it out, take out the perpetrator, take out the COVID. And it, like I said, it kills viruses within 99.9% efficiency within 2 seconds. That's how fast it'll take out. I'm not a virus, but what's that other word? A microbe?
Organism.
Yeah, the virus, it takes 2 minutes or more, or less, 2 minutes or less on the virus. So that is the 360 machine. And if you notice, that's the final point of your triangle that you already have in place. So envision all of that spinning in that circle. And as that triangle spins in the circle, it provides a shield around the county. And at the same time, what's inside the triangle? Well, here's what's inside the triangle. Inside of the triangle is, you've already seen, as a matter of fact, I was amazed at this because I hadn't planned this, but it's amazing how this works out. Dr. Williamson has a good vision to what we need to be doing, and that fell in perfect place with his plan. For example, inside the triangle, we have the superintendent, the board, his administration, the school staff, the children, the parents, the county commissioners, tax municipalities, businesses, medical profession, religious organizations. In essence, everybody inside the county helps keep this triangle in motion. And that's if we can get this vision of his into the county, into the students, into the schools, along with information like this and his administration, I think we're going to attack this problem very well. Not saying there won't be, and he's already alerted us to this as well. There will be times that we might have to critique. We might have to take a look at something that was unforeseen at the time. So at this time, one more thing. One more thing about the nurse. She sits at the pinnacle of the triangle. So that 360 machine, when it goes out, she pushes the button. So she and I had a conversation. We had a little gray area, and the boss is, what I like about our boss, and I asked him if it's okay to call him boss, and you did give me permission, boss. So with the boss, now, we got us a boss who lets us work and develop the things that we need to develop. Still, it comes by him, get his blessing. But that is working well thus far because we aren't out of problem today through the nurses and ourselves and the departments that where we saw a little gray area. So thank you, boss, for your leadership and helping us get where we're at. Any questions for me before I sit down?
Mr. Superintendent,
Dr. Manning?
I have comments, but I don't know how the superintendent's going to present this. Are you going to go through the whole book, Mr. Superintendent? Like the safety procedures? I'm not going to go over it. I just have some comments. Are you going to go over some more of this, or is that the end of your presentation? My comments is this. I've had a call and I gave my word that I would bring this up. We had a parent who's very concerned if we do come back to school, and hopefully we will at some point, the kids. How are you going to handle cleaning the desk because the kids have to eat in the classroom? And I did say that I would bring that up. Now, I know Ms. Thornton has a cleaning schedule, and I mean, the Genders have a cleaning schedule, but that's something that I think is a legitimate concern of that parent, because the desk needs to be wiped clean before they eat breakfast, before they eat lunch, if they're eating in the classroom. And I do have another comment that I want to make, and I think these are great safety procedures for everyone. But this is just something to think about, Dr. Williamson. And I've already been hit with this challenge. That's not my job. That's not my job to wipe the desk. That's not my job to take the temperature. I think at the schools, they need to take this list, in my opinion, and say persons responsible and put a schedule like, I might be on duty for taking temps for the people coming in. For us, I think this is wonderful because it hits every area. It also hit the area that I mentioned last check. But I think for the schools, it doesn't go far enough because it's not that specific as to whom's the person will implement those things. Because it's a known fact that a janitor cannot wipe every desk before breakfast and lunch. They cannot. And there is the idea that some may say, well, that's not my job to clean desks, or that's not my job to take temperature. I think the principal has to take a lead role sometimes, and somebody said this at one board meeting before, sometimes people have to take on other job duties. And I think we all have to take other job duties during this COVID. I think at the school level, that there should be a person's responsible for these things. This is fine for this group, but I think it needs to go further so it won't be left off. And I shared with you in our meeting that I was concerned because I could go to schools and they never take my temperature. There'd be nobody at the desk sometimes or at the table. So see that drop. So I guess my question is, or my recommendation, but you don't have, I mean, I'm not being bossy. I just don't see, unless the schools say the person responsible at each school, I see it falling through the cracks.
Thank you, Dr. Manning.
You're quite welcome. That's free of charge.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Beyond the district plan, we have required and school principals have presented their personal school reentry plan, and all those questions are defined and answered in that plan, designated areas. And beyond that, we've asked them to post a reentry video that really spells out the process, procedures in terms of how that's going to happen. Dr. Lockyer, you want to talk more about that? But they presented their individual school plans and have posted, for the most part, reentry videos that do share all of that.
And Dr. Manning, that question did come up about, who's going to clean all these rooms, that's like you said. But like you said, it starts with the school administrator, and the school administrator has to set the tone and say, Dr. May, you're responsible for this, Johnny, you're responsible for this.
Right.
Because if not, it's not gonna get done. It starts at the top. And that's what we told them when we had our small groups and looked at their reentry plan, that is a must, because if not, if we don't work together as a team, then we're not gonna ever get ready.
So I think we've answered those questions in those plans of designated folks. And then the other part is there are wipes within the classroom and they have really worked out. In a lot of cases, I know we can ask students to help with wiping down the, but those questions been answered in the school reentry.
Mr. Chairman? Dr. Williamson? And looking at the reentry plan, it said the child, I will bring a bottle of water to school. What about the children who cannot bring the bottle of water? Will we have something that provides for that?
We can purchase miracle water for each school. Is that possible?
Food service.
Believe
School
they
fees.
addressed that through child nutrition,
Okay.
and that the water will be available during lunch. Now, there was some discussion about the cost. There was some discussion about the cost of providing bottles for every child every day, and that just was too large, and there were, we talked about children bringing their own water bottles in, or maybe purchasing water bottles, empty ones for children, but that we haven't moved forward with either of those yet. The only thing that we said we couldn't afford to do was purchase bottled water for every child every day.
I know in some other districts, they're all allowing students to bring bottled water home and their water bottles, and we'll probably have that same practice.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. It's just that some students cannot. That's why I was addressing that.
Terry?
As we discuss bringing the kids back in different grade levels. So we've discussed, was it K3 and, the high schools to come back for testing. So if we kind of scaffold this process throughout our plan of working toward bringing all kids back, as we're going through that, there's going to be some schools that with no children, and there's going to be some, with higher numbers, than others. Is there a plan for leveraging those resources? Because, when you bring kids back, there's going to be extra duties, right? And then you may have, a school with no children there. So have we discussed, how we can leverage our human capital?
I am going to make a recommendation in a minute that will address that. But before I do that, let me ask Stephanie if you'll come and share the data and information with us, and then I'll come back, Mr. Lockley, and answer that question, what I am going to recommend as an action item.
Thank you.
Chairman Lowry, Superintendent Williamson, and members of the board and cabinet. In your board packet, we have included a student health and safety FAQ and a COVID-19 vaccine update. Documents as after meeting with Dr. Williamson, recommendation that we provide a informational sheet to support the language that's in our written plan. And that's going to be this student health and safety FAQ that I'll do a quick snapshot overview as some of the language that we've heard, like outbreak, which is going to further to what that looks like. Cluster. Who would determine a closure of a classroom or building? And most definitely in consultation with the Robeson County Health Department, discussions, if that would be needed. Fever, I'm sorry, in our North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, at strong schools, we have a baseline of 4, that is your clinical measurement of a temperature. And our district has, made the decision to go with 99.9 as that baseline to go ahead and alert us that there may be a problem. Not well, go ahead and activate the isolation room, get the individual in there for further evaluation. That change, and it should be noted in our other documents as well. In the event of a student's positive, what would that look like in our school district and who was notified? And we determine quarantine and what does that look like? And as an additional update, we actually sent out, because that has continued to be somewhat of an issue, you know, as far as determining quarantine. So we just wanted to make sure that our staff is, that they're having those communications. If you are not well and you're exhibiting symptoms, please notify your school administrator and school nurse that, that you are having symptoms, that you have went and tested for COVID, or you have been diagnosed with, the COVID-19, virus. Then that way we can go ahead and quickly determine, what those isolation and quarantine dates look like and determine your return dates. And of course, within that process, we would, determine if there was a close contact or an exposure within the school setting. So we wanted to include that along with those resources. We also, I'm gonna start at the state and work myself down. So of course, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services provided a, very, handout that shows the group and how they will, delivering the COVID-19 vaccine. Currently, the state as a whole has vaccinated group 1A, which is the healthcare workers. And we are currently in the group 1 with that population is 75 years or older. And a neat thing to keep in mind is, as they are working in phase 1B with that group, they will continue to serve or vaccinate those individuals that's in the previous phase. And so those persons can continue to have, go and register for.
Mr. Chair.
Dr. Mayor.
Ms. Stephanie, what have you heard? I noticed the president said 65. When would our county start that?
Okay.
Well, have you heard anything today?
Yes. So for our county, we reached out to Mr. Bill Smith. And so here, so for our county, and I want to read this because I think this is important and exciting. So our educators and our teachers, which is our teacher and support staff members of our educational system, has been deemed frontline essential workers. So for any individual who's 50 years or older falls into group 2, so that would be the next group. And those individuals they should be able to start serving that population by January the 20th. And all other staff will fall into group 3, who is 50 years and younger. And they would be able to have access to their vaccine by February the 8th. But now that's contingent upon the availability of the vaccine. I haven't been notified if hindrance at this time, but that's the 2 preliminary dates that we have and the earliest that we have access to the vaccine.
Have you heard the announcement today that 65 years and older can get the vaccine? It was announced today.
Oh, no, ma'am, I did not.
Yeah, but it was up to the states. So I just wondered if you had heard something about that, because we do have staff that are 65 years old.
So I would definitely.
Which that would cover them if they're essential workers anyway, the other part you read. But that would be interesting to find out what the states, when they're going to start doing that.
Okay, so I'll definitely follow up on
Thank you.
that question.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Brenda?
Yeah, I got an email today and I was able to forward it where Abbott Labs have now also will be given to the schools. Did you get that?
I haven't received that information.
Okay, I'll make certain that you get it.
What is that?
Abbott's Laboratory rolled out a vaccine for schools.
We're gonna do what now? Just tell me, they're gonna do,
They brought vaccine for schools across the nation.
oh, okay.
She was saying Abbott's Laboratories
Yes,
is rolling out vaccines to school districts.
they're across the nation.
So I definitely will consult with Ms. Beth Rao and Mr. Bill Smith on that as well. No, we are our local health partners. And this document, and I won't, just the great information to have that talks about the safety of the vaccine, the difference between Pfizer and Moderna, and some key information there is Pfizer vaccinates, persons 16 years and older, and Moderna is 18 and older. So as you can see, right now, the vaccine is not approved for anyone younger than age 16. Okay, before I move forward, anything about vaccine?
Henry?
So that means our students that are less than 16 years old will not have capability to get the vaccine.
Correct.
But they didn't specify, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. They didn't specify why, correct?
They didn't do it in the study.
Yes.
They weren't involved in the study with Moderna. Okay.
Anyone else?
Stephanie, what is our COVID rate in the county right now?
I'm sorry, what was that?
COVID rate for our county? We've been monitoring.
County rate is 8%, and our state, at the state level, it's 14.7%. And I also wanted to share, and you should have this document in your packet as well. This is our January data that reflects last week, January the 4th through the 8th. And we're going to also enhance our data on our PSRC dashboard after tonight, and you will see it in this exact format. We're going to expand the data so that it will show at each site that there was an exposure or a positive on that campus. And the numbers for last week, we had 84 exposures, and 52 persons who tested positive. And the goal, unless I'm receiving a different directive, our dashboard will be updated every Friday at noon. Unless we want to change, unless the board or Dr. Williamson sees fit that we need to change that.
Henry?
Do we have an established goal as what we're working forward to and reaching? I know ideally 0 is ideal, but we know in a time like this, that's not realistic.
And this was expected, as you've seen after the holiday, when you looked at our trends after Thanksgiving, for 3 consecutive weeks, our numbers rose. Especially right now in the county where we've got wide community spread with a positivity rate at this number. This is expected, and we are looking over the next 2 weeks to see those numbers increase.
Before Ms. Stephanie leave, Ms. Stephanie, because of the growing concern from our staff, what do we have in place to counsel or consult with them and everything?
Well, one of the things that we felt that was needed for Dr. Williamson's request was to, and it has been addressed at the school setting based on conversations I've had with principals and school nurses. During that teaching, it's constant teaching and educating and that communication piece. So what we did, as of yesterday evening and today, we sent out that, and an update to all staff, just to remind them how critical it is to communicate. If you are not well, stay home. Please consult with your school administrator and school before coming on your campus. And I will still always go back to those 5 mitigating factors, practicing our 3 Ws. So properly wearing your face covering, hand hygiene, maintaining social distance, which is where we kind of fall weak in that area with congregating. And we've got to keep in mind company vehicles, less than 2 persons in a company car, you have to wear your face covering. As Mr. Ernie talked about, our cleaning and disinfecting and contact tracing and investigation is key. Because when we have those conversations and those interviews, that reveals a lot. So,
And to follow up on speaking as far as the fear factor that's surfacing right now, do we have anything that we're addressing? We talked about it in the past.
well, and I feel like our biggest fear factor has been addressed. And what I felt like what was a concern with me was, with our family first time, and in the event that somebody was exposed or test positive, would they come forward and be honest? But the district has quickly, addressed our leave, let our staff know in the event, if either one of those happen, we're gonna work with you and you can telework. And the family first time was extended. So I think that's to extinguish a lot of fears with folks' time.
Okay, thank you.
So that would not absorb, personal sick days.
Right, and I'm not sure if Ms. Thompson would address that or not, but it was extended till March the 31st.
And Ms. Thompson,
Yes, the FFC was extended through March 31st. And at this time, any employee who is positive for COVID-19 or a direct exposure, and they are able to telework, we are allowing that. The FFCRA, if they did not use their 80 hours, then we will allow them to use up to their 80 hours in the case of a maintenance person who cannot telework, or a person who is hospitalized or too sick to telework. So that's how we're using the FFCRA. And again, as Ms. Stephanie addressed, we are working with employees who are COVID positive or direct exposure or experiencing symptoms. We just ask that if they're COVID positive or experiencing symptoms, they do get that test and show us proof that the test has been taken, and I'm waiting on my result.
Mr. Terry?
I'd just like to make a comment about teleworking, in general. I'm not sure if the board or, I'm not sure, how we address, blanket policies in terms of, or district-wide policies in terms of, teleworking. In the situation that we're in now, I feel, this is just me talking. I feel like if employees can telework, I feel like we need to work with them, even if, whether, regardless of if they've got COVID or not. And I'm saying that because, the transmission is being caused by just people being in the same, locations and, cohabiting buildings and areas together. So I just feel like as a, as a district, if we could kind of, empower supervisors, directors, assistant superintendents to use the flexibility of teleworking. I think now is a better time than ever, because what we try to do is prevent, because instruction is our goal here, and we don't want teachers we don't want to get in a situation where we can't provide adequate instruction. It's just a comment I wanted to make.
Stephanie, anything else?
That concludes my part of the presentation. Unless there's questions.
Thank you.
John?
That brings me up to.
Dr. Williamson? Mr. John had a question.
Do we have a number to say, if it gets higher than what we already got? Or if the teachers are gonna still be required to continue working in the building, or are they gonna telework?
Let me share the recommendations that I'm gonna ask you to approve as an action item tonight, and it will address that concern, Ms. Brewer, around students and not receiving, the vaccine. So I'm gonna ask as an action item tonight, that all students remain on remote learning until February the 16th. And that is to include pre-K 3 students that was approved to return on the 20th. So again, the remote learning extends to February the 16th. And that recommendation is based on this conversation and trending in terms of Christmas and New Year, that service may be a month long. So that's going to be the first recommendation, that all students stay remote. The second recommendation that I'm asked and you approve is that we do provide teachers and TAs the option to telework from home, starting on Tuesday, January the 19th. They must declare their intent to the building principals Friday, January the 15th. Now, we will require administrators in the building, principals and assistant principals to be in the building. And we'll ask principals and assistant principals to work with the office staff on a rotation basis that we can have front office covered. So again, we ask an action item to do that option, teachers to work or be in the building in this time.
Policy, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, it's on as an action item.
Okay, then, I was up, move that thing. Okay,
Got there yet?
okay.
Action item, Dr. Williamson just explained it, so when we get the action items, we can go ahead and go through it.
Probably to answer a lot of the questions.
Yes, what we're having.
That we had on there. Again, administrators, principals, with staff. But we are going to require that district level employees continue to report to their work site every day. So the recommendation is only for teachers and TAs in the district level employees must continue to report to their work site.
Mr. Chair, I have some clarification. When do I ask that?
You can go ahead and ask it now. We're just gonna wait as far as voting on it, when we get down to the action item. But hold on to that, Dr. Mangus. Let's just do it all in. He just got that out, so, because it was kind of answering a few questions that had been asked.
Okay.
When we get the action item, we can bring up questions if you have that time before we vote on it. Mr. Tanner?
If you want to inject an idea plan to consider time now to discuss it or do it later.
If it's dealing with this, let's wait till we get to this part here. Is it dealing with this?
Yes.
Wait till we get to this part. We got this on the action item. Wait till we get to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bobby?
Chairman Lowry, Superintendent Williamson, board members. One of the things that we met when we got back after the holidays was we met with high school principals to discuss our testing for the fall. And in that conversation, the plan that we had laid out or discussed pending your approval was that we would administer fall semester exams, and those would be our EOCs and some of the state required CTE exams, January 25th through January 28th. Those would be a Monday through Thursday for our students. Makeups we had scheduled January 29th through February 19th. Now, with the makeup, students would have to make an appointment in order to come on campus and take that test, because principals would have to have somewhere for the kid to go and, of course, an administrator for them to administer the test. There have been some concerns about our transportation. Those routes have been shared with the high school principals. Bus drivers are expected to run those routes next week. So once the bus drivers run their routes, they will be able to give an estimated time as to when the bus would come by and pick up their students. As shared with you previously, our grading expectations again is that we know that the exam grade has to count 25% of the child's exam grade. Our current plan with our principals is that the exam grade will not negatively impact the child. And to clear up any situations where a child does not come in and take the exam, we have decided that initially that child will get a 0, and then the school will continuously work with that child and parent until they're able to come in and take the exam. And once the child comes in and takes that exam, then that 0 would be removed. And of course, waiting on our students to take the exams has delayed our report cards. You know, we typically go out 5 days after the end of the 9 weeks. Our anticipated report card date now is February the 8th. And, of course, our report cards will go home in a variety of ways that we did from the first 9 weeks as well.
Any questions? Mr. Gentry?
This is Bobby. Given these unique factors, we got students that will be coming on campus for the first time in months. Some of them, many of them, have never met their teacher. There's a lot of extenuating factors here. So, and I realize some of these are state standard tests, but has any thought been given a system of grades, giving the kids a break because of the circumstances? Or is it just going to be across the board rating?
No, what we have decided to do for all of our exams, just not the state exam, is that a child's final grade cannot be lower than the average of the 2 9 weeks. So let's say I make a 70 both 9 weeks, and I make a 60 on my exam, I'm not going to get that 60, I'm going to get that 70. So the exam grade, regardless, again, whether it's and I hate to say the PE teacher, whatever that child's average of the 2 9 weeks, their exam grade cannot be lower than that. So that way we understand the extenuating circumstances and trying our best to help our students out.
And Mr. Bobby, Mr. Chairman?
Brenda?
Bobby, you mentioned about the bus routing and everything. You all have backup plans in the event that one of the drivers do get the COVID also?
I cannot speak for backup plans for bus drivers. I would think that there would be subs available on campus.
Yes, ma'am. We went over contingency plans of what was going through. There are concerns, though, of staffing concerns with bus drivers. As I have said that multiple times at various different board meetings. However, we have shared and spoken with those schools, even this morning, with some schools to ensure that they have adequate drivers to be able to. And if we need to, we will be able to pull other drivers to be able to go through, to be able to ensure that testing does go through.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Policy update, Mr. Gentry and Ms. Karen Brooks Floyd.
Policy Committee met December the 10th to review the 1,000 policy series. All of these policies are requesting or up for revisions, and based upon that, only require a first reading and not a second reading, if I understand correctly. And so at this time, I move that the 1,000 policy series be adopted.
Second.
Make a motion, Chairman, to set aside policy.
To action.
I need a motion to set aside policy to move it to an action item.
Second.
I make a motion, to set aside policy, and move the 1,000 series policy to action item.
Second again.
That was made by Dr. Emmanuel,
Second again, I said.
second by Ms. Brenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now do we have a motion
I make a motion. I make a motion that, we approve the 1,000 policy numbers.
This will be as a first reading, right, Mr. Gentry? As a first reading?
Yes.
Second.
Motion, it needs to be by, Ms. Brenda.
Second.
Let me understand, Mr. Chairman, now Grady, this is first and last reading, Grady, is that what he said?
Yeah, are these just revisions?
These are revisions only.
Yeah.
And it's my understanding, they do not require.
That's okay. Oh,
Gonna read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As of tonight.
Yeah, cool.
okay. Motion was made by Dr. Emmanuel and seconded by, Ms. Brenda. Just the revisions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. Thank you, Ms. Gentry. Okay, action item. Dr. Williamson?
Chairman and members, I am requesting that all students remain on remote learning until February the 16th, to include the pre-K 3 students that were scheduled to return on January 20th. Please.
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
Second. Chair.
Motion by, Mr. Mike and a second by Randy. Okay, questions?
Question.
Okay, I heard Mr. Henry first.
I would like to challenge the board to reevaluate our action to return students back to the classroom, in all respect to our new superintendent, Dr. Williamson. We don't have control of what happens in society. Thus, for we have to make decisions based on numbers that has been our best option. However, with that has been an underlying fear and atmosphere of doubt. We have to operate with the mindset that we are going to take the given situation and make the best of it. Our job and goal is to educate and keep everyone safe in our schools. The continuous rethinking of our plan to have students in the classroom has created anxiety among other staff, students, and parents. While we follow this process with the best of our intention, the current time requires that we consider a decision for the remainder of the school year. To maximize our potential at educating the students of PSRC, I think putting a plan in place to stay virtual the remainder of the school year is necessary. We have completed 5 months. We only have 4 more to go. We have hired a new superintendent to help maximize the efforts of the PSRC staff in hopes to provide the best education possible to the students in PSRC. However, we must acknowledge that our COVID positive rate is 15% or greater and increasing. Both parents and staff are questioning if we are truly able to bring students back face to face, instructionally safe. If we do make the decision to return face to face, we have to consider our responsibilities. Part of the responsibility is the return of students to Shining Stars. If we're able to start, which Shining Stars is not able, but Shining Stars, it would cost North Carolina Pre-K program $34,056, plus a development day fund of $22,088, plus daycare funding $420, making that a total of $56,564 for 1 month, because we're not fully prepared with Shining Stars. And if the school program starts, Shining Stars has to start. And as I know, been reported to me, the roof hasn't been started. I encourage all school board members to remain virtual for the remainder of the 2021 school year. We have too much at stake now to lose. I think this would give our new superintendent ample time to get everything in place, start our new school year off, and we're reducing anxiety problems amongst our employees. I'm through.
Dr. Emmanuel?
Well, I think, students are first, and our employees, I understand, because I've been getting those calls as well. I'm just asking the superintendent, and I'm going to go with what the superintendent wants. But I would ask him to reconsider that date to March the 1st because the figures are lagging when they make these reports. And then Miss Stephanie said the rate was 16 point something with her report. Well, the report I saw today was 17 point something for Robertson. And someone mentioned the state, and the state would love to have a 5% number of COVID, but that's never going to happen, not right now. But my thing is to ask the superintendent to consider March the 1st because of the lagging when these numbers are reported. But I will go with what he recommends.
Okay, any other comments?
Wait, one more thing. When is the end of this 9 weeks? Mr. Bobby?
In March.
What? When is the end of this 9 weeks?
March the 12th.
This is March 12th.
Okay, Mr. Vontae, do you have a
Oh,
comment?
yeah, I don't have a problem with the February 16th date, but I also want to make sure that we monitor what's going on, the uprising of the cases, be able to, you know, if it's not looking right, be able to push the date back. I mean, I just want to make sure that we're going to do that. We'll be able to do that, and we're just monitoring the situation.
I concur with that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. John.
The February 16th day, are you referring to all the student body from pre-K all the way to 12?
Yes.
Okay.
In the meantime, Mr. Chairman, we'll have another meeting in February before this date expires, February 16th.
Right.
And what Henry said, is like somebody said 2 or 3 meetings ago, this thing is fluid. And right now it's the worst it's ever been. I don't think we need to make that, I don't know if you got a second or not, but I think in February, we'll have a better understanding if we currently need to go to the end of the year or we need to revamp. I just think this gives us a little bit of time to see how the numbers are going and the vaccinations get implied. So I just think the 16th will work good for us. We still have another meeting February, what day? February the 9th?
Yeah, or ninth. Yes. Mr. Hayner?
Mr. Chair, I appreciate those comments. I also concur with that. I just don't want our new superintendent to feel pressured that our board is saying we must get face to face.
Oh, no.
I don't think that is happening. Gentry.
I know we've heard an excellent report from Miss Stephanie. And she has disclosed the current infection rate. And where we are, is all about numbers and data. And you know, we're fighting an invisible enemy here. But we do the best we can. And I heard what Mr. Mike said as well. I think we would do well with up-to-date and current advice from our health officials to establish a threshold of an infection rate that is deemed accessible or acceptable and or not. I think the time's come, you know, and we're on the increase. It's not getting better right now. I agree with the wait and see concept, but I think we need to have some firm guide about at that time when we reach it, which is just really a few days away, what will be acceptable in terms of an infection rate to get back in the classroom or not.
Any other comments?
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think if we wait to February and talk to Dr. Williamson about it, if we get to February and the numbers haven't changed or gone up or stay about the same, Dr. Williams comes back and makes a recommendation. I think March, Cumberland County's going to March, I believe. I saw somebody sent me a text today, but I think once we get too far in the year, we need to draw the line. We need to say, like you're saying, Mr. James.
Exactly.
At some point, we need to say, yeah, like Henry said, this is the cutoff date. You ain't gonna make up the time. Go ahead and get started. Just cut it off till next year. I think if we got 30 days now to see the numbers, that gives us a better understanding of where we at.
Right.
Right.
And we do have the meeting, February the 9th.
Right,
So that's a week before that 16th day.
right.
Again, as what Mike said, we would be looking at everything for a month. Mr. John, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, they still gonna have the option of virtual learning or just, that's gonna be off the table if we decided they was gonna come back on the 16th.
Yeah, it would be what parents choose, that option of face-to-face. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have an option. Parents have an option.
Good.
Dr. Williamson, the recommendation is we stay remote to the 16th. And then we would look, and if we did come back then, it would be pre-K through 12, everybody on a AB schedule. But we will have, as we said, this is fluid, so we will look at it again at our February 9th meeting.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
So we have 30 days.
Okay, have 30 days, okay?
Call for a motion.
If you had made a motion to accept that,
I second it.
and Mr. Randy seconded, okay? Restate it again one more time.
I support the superintendent's recommendation to hold off till February the 16th.
Okay.
And that's
Second.
virtual. It's all virtual for everybody.
All virtual now.
But all the other employees got to work.
That's the second.
Teacher assistant.
Right.
We're gonna do that separate.
That's the second.
Oh, that's separate.
That's the second one.
The one you did a while ago, for the 16th.
Motion made by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Randy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Williamson?
My second recommendation is that we provide teachers and TAs the option to telework from home starting January the 19th. They must declare their intent by Friday, February the 15th to the building principals. We will require administrators to continue to report to the building and work out a plan with office staff for coverage there. District level employees must also continue to report to their work site daily.
Move approve, Mr. Chairman.
Now, that telework ends when the kids come back, if they come back, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second.
Question, Mr. Terry?
Yeah, so teachers will continue to have the option to teach from their class if they'd like, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Classroom or television?
Classroom or telework.
So we're going, this is it will be a week from today, actually. Will there be a plan, or are we leaving it up to the principals to determine whether or not teachers have everything that they need to work from home? Because, I mean, I know some classrooms have certain resources that they may not necessarily have, at home. So there may be if you're talking about a week, it may be some sort of transition period, or are we just leaving it to the principals to determine whether or not that environment is conducive to learning, just as the classroom is?
Mr. Terry, I'm gonna say, teachers have been teleworking.
Yeah.
So it's a large number, the number that's been doing that have that access to do what they need to do at home. And then many teachers rather come to school and do it. So this is just giving them the option to do that from home, if they so desire.
Mr. Chair,
Sure. Roar?
for clarification, when we say teachers have the option to telework, who makes that decision? The teacher themselves or?
Teachers themselves.
They got to put in by January the 19th and
Need to declare their intent, right. Need to declare their intent by the 15th, and the teleworking will start on Tuesday, January the 19th. And that does include TAs. Understand we do have TAs delivering meals.
Okay.
TAs that will provide that same option.
And it's for, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Williamson, and as far as the bus drivers, the principals will also be working that out also. Thank you.
Anything else? We have a motion?
Got a motion second over there.
I motion that.
Okay, have a motion by Ms. Furby to accept the recommendation of Superintendent Williamson, and a second by Mr. Henry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Financial report.
Like Dr. Robert said, Happy New Year. Good evening, Chairman Lowry. You should have received a financial report Going to about the COVID funding that I put on your desk at each meeting. We have been operating all year long with the knowledge that those funds will be in December. Through December of 2021. So as you can see, the list I provided you today, we have either completely spent all but $2.08 of those funds. And the staff had some discussion today. We encumbered a computer order that we're going to revamp and do some things where we can provide some tutoring opportunities to our schools. Either way it goes, all of these funds had no problem or encumbering it prior to that day on this. So this may, I'll continue to provide it every month since it did not expire. You may see out there were a lot of amendments next involving those funds. We were able to do ABC transfers there at the end. I can answer any questions. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that those funds have been continued for another year.
Dana?
Chair, I'd like to say that, I'd like to extend appreciation. I thank you to Miss Erica for the hard work she's done, along with other staff members, keeping count of all these funds during the pandemic situation. And she did fulfill our request at expediting, funds that was coming. It would no longer be with us before December the 30th.
The collaborative effort, there's a cabinet, lots of employees work on this and make sure we keep all of this together and make sure we.
Thanks, Deb.
Everything according to, the NCRO.
How much you say was left, Ms. Erica?
$2.
$2. Say that a little louder.
$2.08.
That's outstanding. Thank you to everyone.
Second.
Mike? Has a motion, Dr. Emmanuel?
This has to do with the charter school, in Pembroke. I don't know which account item it is, so you have to get me straight. There has been a cut with supervisors or the tutors or staff that, do you know anything about that?
For the CIS account?
Yes.
No, I'm not aware of any cuts that we've experienced. I don't know any details.
I'll call, I don't think Mr. Gray will let me. I'll call the names afterwards that I got a call that allegedly that they had been cut because said they had no money. Allegedly, the message came from you, allegedly.
No, we had 3 employees that had employed there. They're still working. We have some contracted services that, and actually there's additional funds that were received in a grant through the educational,
I thought you had received a grant. That's why I was asking you.
not to my knowledge, ma'am. I haven't spoken to anybody at the charter school about cuts.
CIS.
Yes.
I'll tell you afterward.
Okay, I'll follow up.
Okay.
Gentry?
The COVID-19 funds are separate and apart from the CARES Act.
That is correct.
Okay.
All of these funds reported on the COVID sheet that I give you, state deemed them as state funds. The CARES Act, all CARES Act PRC 163 federal funds. Yes, sir, they are completely separate. And we should be getting more funds, based on the stimulus. We'll have some grants coming up here that I have been discussing. We're in conversation now. We're bringing those recommendations to the board as we move forward with those applications. But several things from the stimulus package that was just approved in December have not yet trickled down to us. It's forthcoming, and we'll update the board as we get that information.
Mr. Mike?
Yeah, he second.
Yeah, motion was made by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Randy to accept. Any in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Sir. Just a minute. Text, and I usually don't like to do it. I got a text, Dr. Williamson, just for the record, so the record will know, we said teachers and teachers assistants.
Somebody asked me, will guidance counselors and social workers, do they go to school or they telework? What's their option?
I think the telework, what's been the practice in the telework in the past for, have that same option.
So they can tell.
That's right.
Okay.
In my mind, the definition teacher includes,
Social, okay, all right, just, record. Okay.
Okay. Ms. Erica?
Okay, and the budget amendments, as we discussed, for the state funds, be involved in ABC transfers that were approved between the COVID programs. It has an additional, allocation for transportation and the education workforce and innovation program that's in conjunction with, CIS.
Any questions?
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by, Mr. John. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Ms. Eric.
Chairman, I really love how Miss Erica got this broken down. I like this. Easier to read.
Yes, sir.
I have a text says, will you verify high school testing in January, even though we are remote until 2/16? Can anybody elaborate on that?
Probably did.
25th to 28th, and then makeup is 29th to the 8th of February.
I think what he's saying, somebody's, Mr. Bobby, come on up. Somebody's made a comment about testing. That Mr. Bobby addressed this. I think that testing situation, we are going to do the testing and that would be at school, but I'll let Mr. Bobby address that.
You verify that, testing in January in reference to us being remote till 2/16.
Yes, our plan, that when we met with the high school principals, is that we would test the week of January 25th through the 28th. I think the concern maybe is making sure teachers are there to administer the test, since the option has been provided for them to work remotely. So that may be kind of where the direction's going there, but teachers, high schools will need to have staff members on campus in order to administer the test.
Yes. Okay, Mr. You got a question?
So will our, Dr. Williamson noted earlier that everything would be in place, by February 1st. We talked about the different sanitizing equipment and training for custodians and all that. That'll be in place February 1st. So, will the high schools be prepared for testing by these dates?
Yes,
Yes, I mean, we're disinfecting now, and I did talk to Mr. Hammonds about the possibility of purchasing. I think we're gonna get, some of that water early, correct, on the backpack sprayers. We have them next week.
Yes, and even if the backpacks weren't available, you still got those hand sprayers. So those hand sprayers, do a real good job. And the piggyback from that to what Dr. Manning was alluding to, those is not gonna be as big a task as people are thinking. These electrostatic sprayers, you can go in these rooms and you can disinfect that whole entire room without hand to rub down. The rub down's fine, but these machines are designed to do what Dr. Williamson is pointing out. We can actually go into a room and disinfect that room, and within the appropriate time frame, they can come back into the room safely.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Gentry?
I'm going back to action that the board has already taken in regard to request and proceeding for telework. The request is due on January the 15th with it to commence, as I understand, on January the 19th. Okay. Exams 25th through the 28th. Do we need to go back and revisit with a caveat that if they request teleworking, that they in fact have to be present to administer the exam? Because I don't think that was addressed in the original motion.
Bobby, do we have an idea of what percent of students, do we have to test? Do you have an idea?
No, I don't have a percent, but I do have the high number. Wilmington or Purnell, their highest day is about 500, and I want to say that's the second day. The first day, the highest number of kids we would have on any campus would be about 450, and that would be if every student who was assigned to take a test showed up on those days. So again, I don't have a percent of how many students will be on campus, but that gives you an idea of one day, if I'm not mistaken, Wilmington, and I could have this wrong, it'd be 450, and the next day Purnell would be about 500. And then the third day is considerably lower, and of course, the last day it's real low.
So I do have a question from, even though we provide that option, they're still employees of the public schools of Robertson County, and we can require those teachers to show up on those testing days, correct?
Can.
That would take care of it.
Yes.
That would take care of it.
So that's inherent in the original motion. Am I correct on that? That they would have to be present to administer the exam. We don't have to go back and amend the action that we've already taken under those conditions. Am I correct?
Dr. Williamson can without question, direct them to be there
Right.
for testing the 25th through the 28th.
Okay.
That would take care of it.
Thank you.
Okay. Nothing else? Mr. Randy? Oh,
What about the central or office employees? Are there, or will they have the option to telework, or they have to be?
No, we require district level employees to
Okay, I just wanna
open their
make-
work site. That work must go on.
All right.
Mr. Randy?
Okay. I move that the Board of Education for the Public Schools of Robinson County go into closed session for the purpose of discussing certified and classified personnel, North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1 and 6. Students transfers, North Carolina General Statute 115C-402. Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1, and to consult with the attorney retained by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the Board of Education for the Public Schools of Robinson County, North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A13.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Randy, second by Ms. Brenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
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 Hey, can we have a motion to come out of closed session?
I move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gentry, second by Mr. Vontae. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve certified and classified personnel as amended.
I make such motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brewer, second by Mr. Gentry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No legal issues. Motion to approve closed session minutes.
So,
Okay, second by Ms. Brennan. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And there is quite a few, public comments that were sent in, and we did receive them. They will be on our website. I get them on there this week, and they do that for a month, and that's just. You want to mention that comment?
Mr. Chairman and members, I am requesting that we, job description, salary level for an assistant finance officer, please. That we approve to move forward with that process.
I make a motion, move superintendent recommend.
Second.
Okay, I have a recommendation from Superintendent Williamson, for approval of an assistant finance officer. Motion's made by Mr. John, second by Mr. Randy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
Quick announcement, the policy committee, will reconvene on Thursday, January the 21st, here at the board at 10 o'clock to review the next section of policies.
Yeah, that's policy committee.
Yes, sir.
Any other committees?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I think the finance committee would probably like to meet next Thursday. When did you say you was meeting?
Thursday the 21st.
Daytime.
To meet also the 21st. That's next Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Like the finance committee to meet next Thursday at 6 p.m. And, Ms. Erica or whoever, I don't know that I have all that information from that last meeting and all those requests. And do you have that, Ms. Erica, somewhere?
From every department, we can get, I'm sure we can get it by then.
Yeah.
I got it.
Uh,
I got it. You got a list of 10 or 11 things? I think I got it.
okay. I just, whoever's got it, just make sure that get it to the superintendent or somebody.
Is that just finance?
Want to meet?
Man,
That's the same date as
He meets during the day.
Meeting at 10 o'clock.
on me at night.
That's on.
21st.
Just finance them? Okay, finance meeting next Thursday, January 21st at 6. And then policy committee meeting is next Thursday, January 21st at 10 o'clock that morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.